Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed, and today we are reading the Meno. Once again, I have been taking a bit of a break from regular streaming in order to focus on my music, but I am trying to remedy that, and I'm going to get some podcasts in wherever I can. So the schedule will be a bit up and down, but this kind of reading, this material is so important to do, as we are discovering it might literally be virtue or an aspect of virtue, reading these books in these kinds of way every day. Or it might put us in the, it might create the conditions for us to be in virtue. Nevertheless, it's very, very important, so I will take it where I can get it, even if it's, if the timing is a bit all over the place. Hopefully that will be remedied soon, once things start to even out with my music stuff. But yeah, so if you want to join the Discord, you'll get a notification when we do go live, so you'll catch me either in the evening or early morning, after I've come back from busking or I've come back from a gig or something. I'll be very tired, sometimes drunk, but I don't care. Actually, in saying that, a little bit of a personal tangent, the author of the Philosophical Midwifery book that we're reading, and the person who taught the translator of the Meno, because remember, we haven't been able to do philosophy for a couple of thousand years because the translations have all been garbage. Whatever is the polite way of saying garbage. But fortunately, we can actually read the words of Socrates now for the first time. Since, well, I guess they were written since before the Dark Ages, where the libraries were burned and philosophy was banned. And how can we finally read Socrates' words for the first time and get his instructions of how to live and the meaning of life, and how to understand the meaning of life for yourself, how to confirm it in your own experience? And of course, all of the mysteries and puzzles he gives us to reach that, and maybe wonder about what's even beyond pure understanding, or beyond the greatest experience of reality. So we get to read those words, and today, thankfully, because of the amazing work of Juan Balboa, the translator of the text. And he has only been able to do that because of the great work of Pierre Grimes, who helped him to learn philosophy and helped him to do philosophical midwifery on his pathologos. We all have a pathologos that causes distortion. What kind of distortion, you may be asking? Well, interpretation it's called. That's when we add to what's there that isn't there. So you're reading Socrates and he talks about, I don't know, reading, and you say, I think he means read the Bible. That's not in the text. You're interpreting it, you're projecting, or leaving out what is there. Which is why we read with this level of carefulness. And we often review what we've read, or reread what we've read, go back to it after we've made deeper insights. So that's to see what is there without leaving it out. So adding or leaving out, that's interpretation. We're learning to read without that. And our translator has been able to translate the text we're reading because of the work he has done on his pathologos, which causes his own interpretation. Now, we can look at the previous translations of, there's like a mosquito or something flying around. He's only a little one. We can look at the previous translations and we can see, here is where each of the individual people differ from the real text. We know it's the real text because it's been translated accurately, and we have the Greek as well, so we can check it for ourselves. which is what we do on the channel. There's a couple of different websites that have a dictionary that you can look up. So we can see where the pathologos of the translators came in and influenced them. Also, we have to recognize that, since Socrates, there have been dictators and tyrants. Of course there have been, because that's what follows if humans don't do midwifery. Hopefully it's becoming obvious for watchers of the channel. And so culturally, what we might call the milieu, the pathologos, extended to culture. Cultural false beliefs have also made it difficult for translators to translate the words accurately and keep their head on their shoulders, because tyrants and dictators and our pathologos are well known for chopping off heads, specifically of people who share in the logos, because the logos challenges your pathologos. Pathologos, false beliefs about self and reality that cause our problems and block us from being rational, mature, and kind. Good heart and good head, we often say. That's the pathologos. Sick logos, false belief, and it blocks the logos, true, or the self logos. Self meaning honorific, meaning it has its own existence. It's not just a concept or a fantasy or an abstraction that we've made up because of language. The logos, the intelligible pattern and paradigm that informs all things, especially our psyche and our psychic development. The logos, the thing that makes reality understandable, and the framework through which goodness has to be distributed for there to be providence. That's the logos. That's what we're learning. So we need to learn to overcome our problems and wonder about virtue, which is what we are doing here. So the pathologos of individuals in power, if left unchecked, will lash out against the thing that would benefit them in society, the logos. So famously, many translators or authors have written books and then included a foreword or a letter to the Pope or something like that to say, oh, by the way, when I say that the earth revolves around the sun, that's just mathematics. It has no correspondence to reality, oh dear Pope, whose pathologos is infallible. Because religious bullshit, because of further pathologos oppression, preventing us from reasoning for ourselves and realizing, if you have to write a letter to the Pope saying a true fact about the earth revolving around the sun isn't true, so he doesn't chop your head off, maybe you might be a redneck. You might have a pathologos. You might be a tyrant. And if there is a system that supports people like that being in charge, you might have a sick system. And of course, whether we're talking about any sort of cult or religious beliefs, not yours is special. Take yours out for a moment, and let's look objectively at everyone else's stupid opinions. And you can call it stupid because it's going to be different than yours. So if you're right, they're wrong. So whether it's religion, not yours, but everyone else's religious beliefs, or whether it's societal beliefs, capitalism, that sort of thing, if a system rewards and encourages and rises and brings to the top the people with the greatest sickness to rule everyone else, it is a sick system. Is there something common between capitalism and religion? Why, yes. I'm glad you asked. They're belief-based systems, aren't they? Politicians and economists and all of those sorts of people try to lie to us through belief, Just believe that capitalism is the only way. Don't ask questions. You don't understand. You're not smart like us. You're not Donald Trump smart and understands economy, which is lies, all lies. You are smart enough, you can learn it, and if they understand it, they should be able to explain it simply and truthfully. They don't, because they're lying, and that's why they need a belief-based system to perpetuate lies, because beliefs don't have to have any correspondence to truth. They just have to manipulate people by imitating truth. That's what we're looking at here. Meno is imitating his teachers. Meno is imitating his parents. Meno is imitating his culture. And hey, maybe even his lover. All of the things Socrates pointed out in the first paragraph, the first interaction with the man. Imitation. What we are learning to do by learning to read is to move from imitation, from the realm of shapes and colors, images and beliefs, to actually understanding for ourselves and confirming that understanding in direct experience. That's growth, that's learning. So if systems support this, we can say, well, they're probably good. As a principle, systems that create the condition for participating in logos and participating in philosophical midwifery to remove pathologos would be the good ones. Systems that encourage staying at the level of belief are trying to manipulate you, abuse you. They know that they're doing it, they don't know why they're doing it. That's the game. That's what we have to wake up from. So, we learn philosophical midwifery on this channel, and also that's removing the blocks to the logos, and also we learn the text that outline the logos. So we use that blank space, that freedom from our problems to, actually fill it with the truth. So it means that we have to read a text that reflects the logos, reflects the truth, and invites a level of reading where if you read it with this level of integrity, you'll discover questions and puzzles. So it's a kind of like it's a mystery book as well. And if you reflect on and contemplate and carry those questions and puzzles, it's the reflection, then it can facilitate that wondering with focused attention, following the dialectical structure of the logos, which is putting yourself in the conditions for enlightenment, or to wake up and to see reality without interpretation, to see reality as it is without adding or subtracting. And of course, there are different levels. We talked about image thinking and belief and understanding and knowledge and wisdom and phronesis. There are levels that you can understand hierarchically. That's what we are learning as well, because virtue doesn't end at enlightenment. Enlightenment is the word that points to that experience of mind turning around and knowing itself directly. So it's infinite, it's boundless, it's eternal, it's completely connected, it's the most beautiful and harmonious thing, it's the most well-ordered or just thing. All of the terms that we are reflecting on when wondering about justice describe enlightenment, or the experience of mind knowing itself. But that's not enough, because as Socrates said, thumbs up, we don't want to know them as parts, we want to have them as a whole. We want to have the whole of justice and function through it. So maybe the virtue that we're looking for, the excellence of human beings, is beyond enlightenment.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
That's the question on the table. That stage beyond enlightenment In philosophy, we call it nous, the function the mind has to turn around and know itself. Eternity all at once. All of the lovely words. Literally the highest words we have in our language are used to describe the aspects of the singular experience. In that it's one thing, but there are many different aspects. And the way I like to think of that is, there are many laws of physics. You're kind of experiencing all of them, but at any time you're experiencing reality different than the last moment because there's a different aspect of the physical laws that you are participating in. For example, there is a physical law of harmony that we are enjoying by listening to the music in the background. There is a physical law of gravity that's keeping me down here. Now, I'm not really paying a lot of attention. Like if somebody said, hey, that was an interesting stream, can you talk about your experience? I wouldn't say, yeah, gravity. I was really stuck to my chair. I didn't float off around the room or anything. It's there, but it's not really standing out. That's the way I kind of look at ousia, or pure being, or mind knowing itself, same thing. You could experience it as justice, perfectly ordered. You could experience it as beauty. But you can ask the question, oh, you've experienced beauty. Was justice also there? Like, was there an ordered aspect to this beauty experience? And upon reflection, you can intellectually say, yeah, it was. You didn't feel it so much, but yeah, it was there. Those are the eidos, the ideas. Now, we've been bagging on the former translators of the text, and you can understand there being three key betrayals to our philosophical tradition. The first one is that one. Calling these aspects of enlightenment forms as if they're physical things, like there's a form of a chair in space or something, or in heaven or something. That's the way philosophy is taught at university, and it's wrong, and it's bullshit, and it's easily understood why it's wrong, because the word form is mistranslation due to the pathologos of the translator of the Greek word eidos that we can learn for ourselves, which means to behold. To behold an aspect of being, eidos. It's not a form. In fact, people who misunderstand the aspects of being, or the eidos, the Greek is eidos, people who think of that as forms, we can say they are interpreting. They are adding their own worldview, causing them to fundamentally misunderstand what Socrates is saying in the book. But what's really interesting is, what we are discovering is, by there being a hierarchy of development that we go through as human beings, unless we're blocked, in which case we stay stagnant. So the most cruel, stupid, ignorant, racist, they are the people with the greatest allegiance to their pathologos. And the more we participate in reason, the more we reflect and we try and understand, and we try and share our understanding, we try and help, the more we practice the characteristics of having a good head and a good heart, the more we evolve to be more intelligent, to be more caring, or to be more providential and intelligible ourselves. Another way of saying that is we are raising ourselves to meet the level of our author, which is part of reading. That means that there are hierarchical stages of development that can be understood. Here is someone who's nihilistic, doesn't think anything is real. And then we have those people who think there is a kind of reality, but it's all abstractions. There's nothing objectively true. Words are just abstractions. Ideas don't have an existence, they're just concepts. And then above that, there'll be, well, there are things, but it's just physical things, and yada yada. It goes all the way up to knowing the ultimate nature of self and reality. So what? So the way in which the translators misunderstand eidos as forms tells us where they're at. So if we ever meet these translators, they're long dead, but maybe, who knows, we could maybe ask them the sorts of questions that Socrates is asking Meno to help them understand their position. Oh, forms are physical things, shapes, and not aspects of a much greater cognitive functioning called ousia. Oh, you're a materialist. You're not a nihilist. You still think there are things, but it's just physical things. You are misunderstanding the key idea of metaphysics, the fundamental idea, the building blocks of metaphysics. Metaphysics means before physics. Before the physical world, the material world, there have to be certain conditions in place and certain agents to cause it and maintain it. That's the realm of being. That's the realm that is eternal and knowable and understandable and the cause of our physical world. And so that's where we have to look at to gain the model. So what? Well, it's metaphysics. It's before, beyond, greater than physics. Somebody who thinks it's a physical shape, like they teach at universities, because, as we know, ignorance, institutionalized ignorance, of course, but nothing they can't overcome. So if anybody teaches philosophy, don't give me smoke in the comment sections, just do better. Understand why you have been mistaken about forms and not eidos, and change it. Alright, so what's their misunderstanding? Aspects of pure being, which makes an intellectual tradition also a spiritual one. That's good, because we're not computers or brains in a vat. We have feelings, we have emotions, we experience things. But if we understand the hierarchy of worldviews or states of mind, we can say, oh, forms. You mean like a physical chair or something like that? You are using the framework of materialism, which is quite low, to understand a concept which is several stages above. By the way, the name of this hierarchy of worldviews is called Parmenides' hypotheses. So the second top one, the second hypothesis that we can read, and we're not up to that yet, we've done the first on the channel, explains metaphysics, explains the eidos, the things, the elements of this eternal reality that we use in our physical world every day, that maintains our physical world. Things like same and different, like and unlike, whole and part. These are not abstractions or physical things. They are aspects of pure being. But also beauty, justice, goodness, truth, the single selfers, whole and part, like and unlike, same and different. They're kind of pairs, but they are both there in being. Which is Socrates' question. When Socrates was 19 and he tracked down Parmenides and his student Zeno, his question was, hang on a second, you're saying that sameness itself, not an abstraction, not a thing, or a kind of, not physical thing, let's say it that way. Sameness itself and difference itself, or likeness and unlikeness, how can they both exist in the highest possible way in the same experience? They're different. Same and like and unlike are opposites. How can they both be there? And Socrates' answer was, you, my friend, are trying to understand metaphysics within a worldview or a cognitive functioning that's much, much, much smaller, can't reach there. Of course you're going to be confused. Just like if you were a nihilist and you didn't think anything was real and you tried to learn, I don't know, basic physics, like high school physics, you'd be very confused because here is your physics teacher saying, hey, force equals mass times acceleration, velocity. Velocity equals mass times acceleration. But to you, there is no laws of reality. There's nothing. You can't simultaneously believe there is nothing and also learn an objective principle of physics. Even if it's basic stuff. Like, it's primary school. Force equals, was it? Velocity equals mass times acceleration. Primary school stuff. That's the effect a pathologos worldview has on limiting your development of learning, or logos. So, the translators had a problem similar to Socrates. Their materialist worldview could not understand the metaphysics Socrates was doing his best to point to. Yeah, I know you think in the physical world, that's where we all start, says Socrates, but... And then he uses various metaphors and analogies, and so it gives us puzzles and questions to contemplate so that we can stick our head above the water. This is one of his analogies. You're like fish. All you know is the physical senses. Just like fish, all they know is water. They don't know there's a whole real world above there that us humans are living on. Imagine your current way of thinking or your cognitive development level as that. So this is one of the great betrayals. And also an illustration of why we have to be doing midwifery along with philosophy. Otherwise, you could have the best of intentions, but you won't be able to understand. And if you ever write a book that's taught in universities for several hundred years, you might be lying to people and harming them. Because you haven't done the midwifery on removing the cause of your projections, the cause of your interpretations. And that's why we do both on the channel. So to summarize, one of the great betrayals is misunderstanding eidos as forms. Another great betrayal that we haven't talked about is the word logos, which is one of those eidos, one of the highest eidos, the highest aspects of pure being is its understandability. So instead of the word logos, sometimes they put in reason, sometimes they put in words, sometimes they put in understanding. Now, logos does incorporate all of those things, but so much more as well. So the translators often pick one of the aspects, maybe that they're at the level that they're at currently, completely negating all of the higher aspects, or all the other aspects. So we have to use the word logos when we come across it. So we look out for the word logos. So logos, which is, by the way, the third hypothesis. That's where we're at if we're talking about our evolution through cognitive levels as a society, which we've been talking about, which is why Galileo had to write that letter to the Pope and say, hey, by the way, I know you're not at the level of logos yet. You're still at the level of pathologos based on group thinking in the fourth hypothesis. So because you don't have the logos, you have no standard of truth and you can't act in a good way. You are a zombie slave to your pathologos. So when you hear this logos, reason, truth about the solar system, you will have a pathologos hostile reaction and try to kill me. Please don't, because I'm just joking. So the reason why we have these sorts of tyrants who are doing what they can to kill the best part of humanity, reason, logos, and their own development, is they have not yet moved into the hypothesis or the level of development where you share in logos, where your self-reflections or ousia are characterized by reason, causes, principles, confirming in your direct experience, following an understandable model or paradigm that we call the dialectic. Okay? So, that's the most important thing. That's the biggest hump. Because if we can transition into the logos from groupthink or pathologos ignorance, us versus them bullshit, into the logos, which is universal, which is understandable, which you don't have to believe anyone, blah, blah, all the great things come along with it. That means you have learned what you need to solve any problem. So this is really the biggest hump. Can we make this transition as individuals and a species? If we don't, that's it. So the first great betrayal is that next stage, the logos. The second great betrayal is what's after the third hypothesis. The second hypothesis, what's that? The basis of metaphysics, what's that? Understanding true reality, that which is eternal, and is constantly communicating to us for our benefit because it cares. Something we're learning in the midwifery reading. So, third hypothesis, betrayal, not translating logos. Second hypothesis, betrayal against our intellectual and spiritual tradition, humanities, is mistranslating eidos as forms, which we understood today. And, well, what do we do when we read? We look for patterns. What kind of patterns? The dialectic. 3, 2, 1. What's the top betrayal against ourselves and our tradition? The first hypothesis. What's the first hypothesis? The one self. How has it been translated in the past? One. Missing the most significant aspect, or the equally most significant aspect of itself. So Parmenides is often taught as not real, but just an intellectual exercise for, I don't know, academic wankery. Who knows? Which is, of course, garbage. Socrates or Parmenides wouldn't waste their time on that garbage. The word is oneself. In fact, the whole first hypothesis is based on the fact that it's one thing, ultimate reality beyond what we normally consider reality, enlightenment, a kind of reality beyond even the experience of reality, is one. But to understand it, you have to use two ideas, one and self. And that's the first hypothesis. It's you. The you that is the same behind all of the changes that you go through. We talked about the hierarchy. What's going through that hierarchy of development? We talked about being blocked from our logos by the pathologos. What's being blocked? We talked about finding ourselves, well, we often talk about finding ourselves in the strange existence. What's here? What is finding itself in the strange existence, in the strange world? The self. Behind everything we do, we keep in mind, ultimately our goal is to know and show the self. So what? So taking that word altos, by the way, the word self is not just needed for the highest term, the one self, it's also needed for the eidos, the second hypothesis. Because all those aspects of pure being, they're not abstractions. They're not physical things, but they do have their own eternal, knowable life and existence and effect. So we call them self-beauty, self-justice. Not a beautiful thing in our physical world, but the noun that creates the conditions and causes for there to be physical things. So taking the word self out is a betrayal against our first term, it's a betrayal against the second, and it's a betrayal against the third, because the logos we are moving into isn't my opinion, or Socrates' opinion, or Hegel's opinion, or Nietzsche's opinion.
Have you read Brand at all?
Or Brand's opinion.
What about Scanlon?
Or Nagel.
Have you read Scanlon or Scruton or Edmund Burke? Have you read C.S. Lewis? Have you read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Have you read Immanuel Kant? So you know.
So it's not their opinions, it's the self logos. It's the truth. And it's your truth as well as the truth. It's the self logos. It's your real language that you can discover by removing the false and reading this. So, the three hypotheses we have to move into: learning to follow the logos and remove the pathologos, which is a participation in a guidance and a providence, which is why we read, which can lead you into knowing the ultimate nature of reality, knowing your mind, knowing the eternal intelligence that you are and also is reality. And then beyond that, what caused that? What caused the intelligence to exist? What caused mind to exist? And what's experiencing this progress? The self. Three great betrayals, three levels of development we have to move into. So if it's the three ones we have yet to move into, we might have an understanding of why these are the ones we have been fighting against as a culture. These are the ones that have been difficult to translate, that the authors themselves had their own blocks too. And that's where we are as a culture. We have to reawaken or rediscover philosophy by overcoming these three, maybe four if the word self applies to all of them. We can say there's a betrayal against the one self, calling it just the one, and calling it an intellectual exercise, and not Parmenides' understanding of the self, his self, from himself. Eidos as forms, logos as thinking or words, and the word self, which applies to all of them. So fundamentally, at least four great betrayals against ourselves, our culture, our intellectual tradition, our spiritual tradition. Oh, and by the way, that means there's just one spiritual tradition. So all of those wars and all of those killings and all of those enslavements and all of those child abuse by teaching children ideas like hell and the devil and torture, yeah, you can stop that now. Because that's baby shit caused due to our fundamental betrayals against ourselves and ultimately our minds. Humans' level of development is we are currently at a war with our own minds. But it also means no more conflict. My beliefs that are wrong, like let's take Christian because that's my culture. There was recently a vote for Pope. All these old men, no women there, by the way. Is that interesting? The people who are declaring their objectively fucking terrible, sexist, oppressive, violent, anti-life beliefs should be held by everyone, including women, who we're gonna treat as slaves for making babies. No rights. Oh yeah, and you can say, well, in my interpretation of Christianity, I choose not to acknowledge those parts which denigrate women, except for the times when I want to do it, in which, yeah, that's the problem with belief. You just make shit up. We want understanding. And if it's understanding, there is just one system of development. Of course there is. Just like you go to a doctor. You don't go to two doctors who have two different ideas of the ideal human body. This doctor believes humans should have 6 arms. What? No. That's just an opinion or a belief. That's nonsense. Similar to, well, I think that some souls are actually improved by doing Nazi stuff. No, that's not true. That's just made up bullshit to justify your pathologos. There's no logos that can support that. And thank God, because it's harming you. It's based on fundamental pathologos that attack the self, attack the mind, and attack reasoning. Attack the self, first hypothesis, attack the mind, second hypothesis, attack reasoning, the third, and ultimately it's to block you from reaching your highest goal, which is what? The self. Those are the 4 betrayals. That's what we're doing here. Overcoming these 4, at least, great betrayals, that is the cause of our conflict, our suffering, and our inability to address and solve problems. Therefore, we can understand what the true hierarchy is that the fascists and right-wing grifters are using to manipulate. Hey, we'll give you a hierarchy. Men are at the top, or any belief system. Their appeal is to present a false hierarchy in place of the real one, or a false logos, pathologos, in place of the real logos, the self-logos. So instead of saying, oh, by the way, this is the first hypothesis and everyone should get there and we should encourage people to get there. And if people have problems, we can just understand their problems like a doctor does. Yeah, that's great. No. To obscure that, the grifters and liars, yeah, any belief system. Not your religion, of course. Your one is perfect. Not your family, of course not. Every other fucking one. And you think that as well. You think your beliefs are right. But there are 8 billion people with different beliefs that they all must be wrong. For someone who thinks in that level of belief. That's why the fascists are trying to kill everyone, because everyone is not you. Everyone is different. And they sell it by saying, oh, whoever is the most powerful minority group, like white men, they're on top of the hierarchy. And then white women, and then brown women, and then black, and then so on. Bullshit. Fucking lies. Taking the idea of hierarchy for development and growth and taking out any reasoning, any logos, and also taking out any growth or learning potential. You don't have to learn, which is good because they don't want you to think. Because thinking is the logos. It's the enemy of pathologos. It's not the enemy of pathologos. It's the partner. Because if you apply logos to the pathologos, you'll realize that the whole reason we have pathologos is so that we can develop the logos and appreciate it. Just like right now, if we don't demand the logos as the principle of governance, what happens? Trumps and Musks and Putins and Hitlers take over. If we don't insist on the model of the logos, the pathologos will take the seat. That's why we say, we're all philosophers. You can't not be in this game. You're all philosophers. Just play it well. Because if you don't, the pathologos will use you like a zombie. We're sleepwalking. We have a parasitic virus in our, not virus, kind of like a virus. It's a parasitic element that controls us. That's the pathologos. So what? Appreciating that is where we're at. The movement from defending beliefs. By the way, there's no model. The model for belief is what your mum looked like when she stepped in and said, not in my house, or whatever. Oh, she's really beautiful. She's really showing herself. These are the things that we are learning in midwifery. There must be a reason why we are so devoted, so loyal, so violently and vehemently devoted to our own ignorance, the appearance of beauty. What we are learning in the Meno and in reading philosophy is what is the real thing. Yeah, Pathologos can take the seat, be a pretender to the throne, but what should be in the throne? So where does conflicts come from? Well, how do you prove your false belief, your false harmful belief is not false and not harmful? Well, the Logos, because the Logos is about truth and the good, or intelligence and care. Every fascist will try and trick you to pretend that they are intelligent and caring when they're not. Business bros call it marketing. Just present a narrative where, hey, it's good that Elon has all this money because he might decide to end homelessness. Maybe. Isn't that a good story? That you can believe while you freeze to death because of homelessness? Bullshit. It's just all bullshit. It's just, there's no correspondence to reality of the lies that people who do not follow the Logos put out. Because they're trying to defend their belief, which wasn't based on reason. Which is why religions are always at war. Politics are, fascists are always, we're always at war. Capitalists are always at war. Because war is simply, as Socrates outlined in the Phaedo, people motivated by their physical needs only and try and abuse language, abuse the Logos, blame the Logos in order to prevent people from being rational and reflective and following the Logos so they can lie, so they can meet their physical needs by stealing shit from everyone else. That's what war is. And the foot soldiers who don't get any of the shit, don't get all the money and all the wealth and all the gold that all the billionaires are getting, who are starting the wars, they are being manipulated through belief. How do you prove your belief is better? We kill the other believers. We genocide the Palestinians. We Holocaust the Jewish. And so on and so on. Garbage, terrible, terrible things that are all resolved when we realize, oh shit, the reason we had to live through that is so that we very, very clearly get the message that the Logos is pretty freaking important. You can't just let anything go because that's what happens. Belief, violence, war, oppression, and the ultimate destruction of humanity itself is what follows if we don't wake up to the Logos. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. This is not a belief. This is not an opinion. This is not like a Debate Bro podcast. This is not like every other philosophy class you've ever seen or every other philosophy video you've ever seen. I'm not saying, well, maybe this could be the case, or wouldn't it be interesting, or wouldn't it be a nice bit of a mind experiment? Yes, mental chewing gum to imagine what would happen. Imagine you had a trolley that could kill 4 people or kill 10 people. Imagine. No, fuck off with that bullshit. This is real. These are real truths, provable truths, understandable truths. Anyone who says otherwise is lying to you to get you to reject truth so they can fuck with you through beliefs. Or they are themselves a blind foot soldier and they are licking the boots for their own fascists. Which is why the fascists go for the Christians or they go for the religious people. They are the people who have already been trained not to think with reason but to blindly accept the beliefs from authority figures. That's why let's take Trump for example, the fascists who are in power in America appeal to billionaires and the very, very poor who they are exploiting, because the very, very poor who they are exploiting often are not taught how to think and instead are flooded with religious bullshit. Which is, religion means to be bound by a faith-based belief, which means to believe something that is absurd. You cannot prove Mary was a virgin. You are being told you must believe it. It's child abuse. Well, it's mind abuse. It's an attack on the mind. That's absurd to demand that, but we accept it. And what happens if you accept it? The Crusades. Extreme oppression of women. Extreme wealth inequality. The horrific things that have been done to children in the church. All of these things will happen and have happened because, thumbs up for our reasoning, thumbs down for it happening, because that's what happens if you are at war with, or are being taught to be at war with, reason itself, mind itself, the logos, the self-logos itself. So what? So we are in a very privileged and lucky position at that hump where we either learn the logos or our species goes under. Why? Because there's enough technology and AI and nuclear weapons to play out the implications of the pathologos of the idiots in charge. And by idiots, I mean they are zombies. They are being controlled by their pathologos. Meaning, these are the people we should be helping the most, not by giving them all the guns, but by helping them learn how to reason and overcome the trauma or overcome the difficulties of their childhood, which they're playing out on other people. This is what follows. Unless we demand reason, we demand an understandable, universal, always true, accessible to everyone, objectively good, objectively true paradigm and model upon which we base everything. We must insist on it. Because if we don't insist that the paradigm is true and good and universally understandable, then people will come in with a bad paradigm, a harmful paradigm, a paradigm that isn't based on understanding but is based on opinions and beliefs. This is what will take the place if we don't accept that, hey, maybe everything isn't all relative. Maybe actually there is truth. And maybe we demand truth from our doctors, from our pilots, from even our car mechanics. We don't accept any belief. We want the single true belief of how to fix my goddamn car. Why do we not demand that of everyone else? Well, what's left? Politicians, religious people. So that's the hump we're at. And we have the material to make that hump, to make that transition. We have the logos. We have the translations. We have the excitement. We have seen the stakes. We have the fun community. We have the fun stuffies that help us. This is a chicken, and I have a new one. It's a seal. And he looks like a cow, but it's a seal. Cow colors. And we have dinosaur, and we have baby dinosaur, and we have Phoenix Stuffy, and we have baby Phoenix Stuffy. So we have everything we need to overcome that hump, fulfill our highest purpose as individuals, reincarnated into this crazy situation where we are kind of greatly encouraged in every possible way by a caring intelligence to learn the logos, to learn midwifery. The logos, the dialectic to raise us up. Midwifery, the dialectic to remove our blocks. That's it. Makes sense if you say it. Sounds simple, right? It is. Don't have to go to ecumenical history of religion. Well, actually, the fourth translation of the Bible is the best one, and the books that he left out, that the ecumenical council left out, actually should have included the Gospel of Thomas. And actually, if you think, no, what the fuck, that's too complicated. It's very simple. Learn the art of language, reason, paradigm, all of those words in the logos. The great translation against the logos is it's not translated as logos, so you miss the fact that it's divine. You miss the fact that it has an existence. You miss the fact that it communicates to you in these books, in our problems, and in our dreams, and in our random fantasies for big aspects. You miss all of that. That's the logos. But we don't miss it because we have baby Phoenix Stuffy. Mummy looking out over there. And we have those works that reflect the logos, which is what we need to apply ourselves to as best we can to overcome that hurdle for ourselves and perhaps even for humanity. Because if enough people realize this and insist everything that politicians and any spiritual figure who wants power, any of those people, we must insist that they follow the logos. Not because it's our opinion, because that's what it means to be mature and rational and good. So, that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. So it's a interesting situation in history that we're in, but a potentially very great one. Because it's that transition into the logos that we are making as a culture. Now, that's all well and good, but Socrates points out you got to start somewhere. Thus, Meno, the most privileged rich kid, very well connected, wealthy family. His family are connected to the Persian royal family, best schools. Gorgias, I think, was his teacher. Well-known school, well-known teacher. And now he thinks he knows everything. Now, you might have met some of these guys. It can be frustrating when they're often very young, but they grew up privileged, private schools, wealth, connections, everything was very cushy for them. And then they rock up to you and try and tell you because that's what they've learned how to do, how to imitate true knowledge. Because their teachers, their parents, all of these people that have all this money and provided them with all of this privilege, they don't know shit either. But they pretend. I had a conversation with someone like this recently, and it was very frustrating because whenever the conversation reached any level of meaning, he would instantly throw it away and say, well, that's not true, that's just a narrative. What do you mean? There is true and false. No, there is no true and false. Everything is just a narrative. And in capitalism, we get money so we can lie about the narrative so we can manipulate people. And my question to him was, well, once you get people's attention or you get their power over them, what do you want to do? How do you want to influence them? I'm a musician, obviously. And so part of my job is to create something beautiful that will draw in people's attention. They're not doing it because capitalism, you will starve if you have to listen to me, otherwise you will starve to death and your children will starve to death, says every fucking boss in capitalism. That's why the system's fucked. Not like that. A musician provides something beautiful to invite you in, and that's the channel. Provide something fun, beautiful, invite you in, interesting, but then once you're in, was my question to him, what next? Never even thought. The question puzzled him. He had never even thought of that, which is an interesting situation because here he is being asked a question he's never thought about before, so he doesn't know. While also, he is holding on to the false belief that knowledge is about pretending you know everything. Trump, perfect call. Elon Musk, I'm good at everything. I'm the best video game guy. I'm the best business guy. I'm the best money guy. They're lying about everything because they don't have a standard. It's just appearance. They seem like car salesmen. They're just bullshitters. They're just bullshitters upon bullshitters. So here he is with this idea of excellence or virtue being pretending he knows everything, just like Meno, while being asked a question that he's never thought about. Similarly, in that same conversation, we were talking about something, and I said, oh, by the way, is there a difference between belief and understanding? Because he had never thought about whether understanding is different from belief. Again, never thought about it before, but acted as though he did. Let me tell you the difference between understanding and belief. So, by the way, have you read The Divided Line in the Republic? No. But let me give you advice. Infuriating. Number one, he's an idiot. Number two, he's a young idiot who doesn't know anything. He hasn't done any work in any of these fields, but insists that I am stupid. Why? Not because I am stupid. He requires that so him as a stupid person can be above in the hierarchy of oppression. That's the that's the students, that's the children that we are pumping out into the world. There is no objective standard, so marketing is fine. Bullshit, it's not fine. No fireworks for marketing. That's a terrible situation. Why do we have marketing at university? Why do we have business at university? These are terrible, terrible things. But if it's part of the curriculum, these young people don't even ask the question, what the hell are we doing? And that's where we are in the book. Meno, rich, privileged jerk, doesn't know anything, hasn't even wondered about these questions, but still insists on being right, still insists that he is smarter than Socrates, and still insists that he should lead the conversation. So what Socrates is dealing with, this is the human element of what do we need to do to solve human problems? To stop fascism and exploitation and genocide? This. Not just have the logos like Socrates, but know how to share it with others, because it's the Menos of the world that kill the Socrates of the world. So how do we navigate? Because we want more Socrateses. We want less Menos. We want less Hitlers, Musks, Trumps, and Menos. Less people insisting that knowledge is lying because there is no objective truth and there's just the physical world. And more people who use words properly to seek truth because they acknowledge there is an eternal reality, an objective knowable truth that we can access through the logos, through the understanding, through dialectic, and we must. A Socrates and a Meno. We want to be Socrates, but also learn how to most artfully introduce these ideas that we have struggled and sacrificed to understand ourselves. How do we introduce that to others in a way that they can share in it too? That's the question. And that's the book. And that's where we're up to now. So, Socrates has tried to help him learn how to think, learn how to reason, learn how to do the dialectic. He's done a lot already. Meno doesn't seem to be budging. He seems to be claiming that he is stung. You've just asked me a question that makes me puzzled. And normally I'd give big, boring, stupid speeches, but now I'm stung. I can't really. But now he's giving a big speech while saying that. Because that's where we need to be. Puzzled, curious, wondering. All human problems are puzzles to be reflected on in wonder. That's Socrates. The Hitlers, or the belief thinkers of the world, the pathologos of the world, the Menos of the world, think, no, problems are just things to lie about, to create excuses, to justify inflicting violence so I can manipulate people to meet my physical needs. Currently, our world is this. The hump we have to go through is to move to this. All problems are puzzles to be reflected on, which helps us not only solve problems, but learn how to do ousia, self-reflection, second hypothesis, learn to master the art of the logos, the third hypothesis, which we can use to ultimately know and show the self, the first hypothesis. Third, second, first. That's what we're moving into. So, in the story, Socrates showed, hey, here is your slave, or he thought he knew about this math equation. He didn't, but he changed his mind, which is making him better. Do you think that might apply to you? We don't yet know how effective that example was, but that's something that we can employ, I suppose. Did it work? If it didn't work, can we employ a better strategy? And then Anytos enters the fray, and that's where we're at. So maybe another person coming in Maybe if Socrates points to this other person who might be even more addicted to their pathologos, addicted to ignorance, unfamiliar with the logos. He might even be even more than that. He might be even more of those things than even Meno. Maybe that will give him some perspective. Or maybe he's the opposite. Maybe he has seen the nature of the pathologos and... Well, we've already read enough to know he's not like that. So, is the introduction of Anytos as someone even more stuck? Will that help Meno? And if so, can we add it to our tool belt as dialecticians or people wanting to be virtuous ourselves? So that's where we're on the text. Keeping in mind the fundamental question is, what is virtue? That's Socrates' question. Meno's question assumes he knows the shit he doesn't know. Same old, same old. And he asks whether or not virtue can be taught. So those are the two questions. What is virtue and can it be taught? That's where we're on the text. I'm going to take a quick break to top up my coffee and we'll jump back in. So, yeah. Big summary, synopsis, reflection of where we are and how it's relevant to our times and how we can understand philosophy. Because we are also Meno. We are also having to transition. We're transitioning from this sick betrayal view of philosophy and view of how we organize systems, like politics and religion, to a healthy, rational, mature, logos-based one like Meno is struggling to make the transition into. We are also struggling, but we're going for it. Don't give up. Aim for this. Aim for the highest. And constantly improve this. The more we read, the more we can improve our imagination of what it would be like to be a master of the dialectic or a master of the logos like Socrates. So we're using our imagination to draw us up while also learning about the difficulties we will all face when we accept that challenge through Meno. So that's where we are. That's what philosophy is. That's the new level of philosophy. That's the new hump. Those are the 4 great betrayals. That's what we're having to overcome. That's why we're reading the text. So let's jump in after a quick break for some more coffee. We'll jump back in. Thanks once again for joining me. And yeah, I'll see you in a little bit.